Hi, and welcome to this video on 3 common mistakes that women make when they're going through a miscarriage. Now, after having gone through a miscarriage myself, it's a very devastating experience, and there's a lot of mental chatter, if you will. There's a lot of fear, anxiety, and a loss of what to do, and a lot of blaming yourself. So I wanted to make this video because after I shared my story through Instagram when I was experiencing my miscarriage a couple of years ago from now, I realized how little support women had going through such a traumatic experience. And the conventional medical system really just tells you that it's normal and that you need to have at least 3 before you can reach out for help. Now, of course, you can reach out for help and do some grief counseling or some therapy to help you go through the process, but there isn't any physical support that goes on. And I really want to change that and empower you to go through a miscarriage in a way that puts you back in the control seat. It helps you get your health back, your menstrual cycle back, and that is going to allow you to go through the mental and emotional chatter and grief that goes on with a miscarriage in a much smoother way. So let's talk about the 3 mistakes that I see, and I'm just going to share my screen because it's easier for me to draw it out. But basically, when we experience a loss, there are 3 things that after, seeing hundreds of couples and hearing thousands of stories about miscarriages, here are the 3 big mistakes that we make as women. Number 1 is we blame ourselves. Okay, we get a lot of mental chatter, and right away, what did I do wrong? How could I have prevented this? How can this happen? I must have done something wrong. The next mistake, number 2, is we don't investigate it enough. Now I'm going to expand on this, but because we are so told by the medical conventional system that it's normal and there's nothing to do about it, and sorry to hear about your loss, you can try again when your cycle regulates. We're kind of just told, and we come to believe that. And so we don't investigate as to why the miscarriage happened. And what I find that does, and the third thing, is we end up living in fear. Okay, because you are now worried that may happen again. You don't know if you did something, you didn't do something, if there's something wrong, if it was just a fluke, if it's going to repeat itself. And so this vicious cycle in our brain goes on and off, on and on and on. So when we blame ourselves, this is probably like the worst thing that we can do because it's such a negative energy. Okay, the negative energy will just bring you down, and it's very, very unproductive. So how we're going to flip that, and what we need to do to flip that, is we need to have the discipline to switch our thoughts. Now, I'm not talking about switching your thoughts or not acknowledging how you feel. That's a big component of going through the miscarriage, is acknowledging the loss that you are going through and acknowledging all of the emotions that you are feeling. That is not only normal, but is healthy, and you need to do that. What we don't want to do is get into the negative chatter of, I caused this, I am unworthy, I'm the one, this is my fault, because that's the negative energy that can bring us down and can be really, really difficult to get out. And so the discipline to be able to understand that those are just our thoughts and separate our worth from our thoughts. And that's why I say it's a discipline, because it takes a tremendous amount of work. I would recommend to reach out for help, like whether it's a psychologist, a therapy, counseling, whatever, support group to help you get out of that state. Because in this moment in time, that doesn't serve you, and being in the space of that negativity is actually going to create more anxiety and more kind of depletion and frustration. So reaching out for help and creating discipline around switching our thought pattern. The investigation, here's the thing, you guys. We want to get some answers. You don't need all answers. And the truth is, you're not going to be able to know exactly what happened. But I don't know about you. When I had a miscarriage, the first thing I thought of was like, how did I cause this? But be it like, I wonder what happened. What happened? I'm healthy. I'm this, I'm that. What happened? And so I feel very fortunate because I have access to being able to run my own lab work. And I know, I know what to ask for. And I have professionals, friends who are professionals in the field that I could ask as well. And I did ask. But basically, by having some sort of answers, it gives you a little bit of peace. So when you're ready to retry, it's going to flip that living in fear into feeling in control and feeling empowered, as opposed to it was just a fluke and there's nothing that I could do about it. There's nothing that you could do about it in the moment, but there is a chance that you could do something about it depending on why you had the miscarriage in the first place. So for example, and these are just patterns, like I said, you're not going to get 100% answers, but you're going to get some. So for example, if the loss is really early, like 5 to 8 weeks, there's typically, it's an implantation thing. So if the thickening of the uterus is not what it needs to be, so whether it's progesterone that's too low, or estrogen is too high. So if you have too thick of a uterus lining or not thick enough, you're going to have difficulties with implantation. It could also be a DNA issue, like DNA fragmentation, DNA, like damaged DNA. And in my case, it was like a premature egg ovulated. And so I never had a heartbeat. I never had, it was just a gestational sac formed, but there was nothing. There was no DNA in the egg that I ovulated. And that's really common to have the premature ovulation when you're under high stress. And for the DNA fragmentation, that is could very well be a male or a female infertility component. So you can experience a pregnancy loss because of your partner's sperm. Please understand that that is a very, very possible cause. So if you experience multiple pregnancy losses and your partner was never investigated, that's a huge missing piece of information. And like I said, the egg starts to implant in that 6 to 8 week mark, even a little bit, like really implant at the 8 week mark. That's why we see that huge hormone rise. Then if it's not going to happen, then the implantation won't happen and you'll miscarry. A little bit of the HCG hormone will rise, but it won't. If we have not enough, if it's, I should say 9 weeks and beyond, there's a couple things. So basically when it's 9 weeks and beyond, the implantation already, quote unquote, should have happened. And typically you've had your first ultrasound and you might have already had a heartbeat, but the body isn't able to sustain a pregnancy. So now you're looking, is there a hormone dysfunction? Is there a progesterone issue? Typically when women have low progesterone, they're much more likely to miscarry. And so there's a way to test to see what your progesterone levels are, even throughout pregnancy, when you are known to, when you're predisposed to pregnancy loss. I apologize, I lost my word there. So the other thing that you can look into is your thyroid, right? If thyroid isn't working well, this is when we see a lot of kind of retardation in the development of the fetus. So the development really slows down and then the heartbeat starts to drop and you actually can start to see what's happening. So being more diligent in investigating and getting some answers, like I said, I don't know about you, but to me, it really helped me feel much more empowered. So when I figured out that my egg was premature when I ovulated, and then I knew that I had a lot of stress 2 to 3 months, for really high stress 2 to 3 months before I got pregnant, it wasn't a no-brainer to me. I knew that I needed to slow down, take some time to recover, let my body heal after the miscarriage, but also get my stress management under control, because obviously it was impacting me in a much greater way. And this brings me to that third point, is when we turn fear into knowledge, you're going to feel much, much better, because knowledge gives you power. Knowledge gives you actions. Now you have actions. And if you add data to that, and that's, lab testing, and you see what's going on, then we can prevent this unnecessary cycle of pain, of blaming yourself, not knowing what's going on, and then living in fear. So as I kind of wrap this up, I do have a program that I'm working on right now to help women support to go through miscarriage, because there's a ton of things that you can do to support your body physically, like the inflammation that happens, the huge fluctuation of hormones that happens, because you still get pregnant, you just, the baby, you just lose the baby. So then the fluctuation, if you can support yourself physically, then going through the mental and emotional component is going to be much easier. But please get the support that you need to go through the mental and emotional, the grief and the turmoil that happens when you lose a baby. That's all a very intimate, a very vulnerable, and a very personal experience for each couple. And it's important that you give yourself the space to go through it. And my hope with this video is that you feel empowered, and maybe you nudge yourself in the direction of stop blaming yourself, and you investigate what happens. So you have more of knowledge when you're going through this experience, as opposed to fear and anxiety and overwhelm. So don't be afraid to investigate. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Don't be afraid to ask for lab tests. And if you have to keep asking the doctor for lab tests, you probably need another doctor and you need another professional to look at it. So, and maybe somebody who's gone through the experience. So let me know in the comments what you found super helpful in this video. I'd love to know, and I'd love to have that feedback. If you would like to share your story with me privately, go ahead and send me a DM. If there's any way that I can support you, I will. And in the meantime, I'll see you in the next video.